You assume in America, if you purchase a home and own a residence, that's your residence. People aren't going to be able to just move into your house and then claim squatters' rights. And their laws are not siding with the homeowners, they're siding with the squatters. You are not going to be able to commandeer somebody's private property and expect to get away with it. Give the homeowner the ability to quickly and legally remove a squatter from a property.
So today we're announcing new protections for renters.
Wait, what?
As part of our upcoming budget, we're going to create a Canadian Renters' Bill of Rights. Give renters a clear history of apartment pricing so they can bargain fairly. We're also going to launch a new legal aid fund that will protect tenants against unfairly rising rents, rent evictions, and bad landlords.